Now before you get into the body of the video for the jeans, say hi to Russell. Hi Russell. Actually no, I just wanted to give you an overview of the 9 steps involved in making the jeans. And the first one is to bleach the shirt and maybe the jeans. I did bleach mine because they were quite dark and I really wanted them a bit lighter. So bleach the shirt. Then we're going to cut open the jeans on the outside leg, and I do show you how to do this. And we will dismember the shirt. I couldn't find another word. Cut it up, dismember, pull it apart, all of that. Then we will do the fun bit of applying the shirt to the jeans using the glue. I show you the glue I use, which is a spray glue. I need to check my notes here. Oh yeah, and then once you've applied them with the glue, there's a little bit of sewing to do just to hold them down, because the next step, the really fun bit, is using the Dremel to distress the shirt. And you'll see on mine, I actually distress some of the jeans as well, but you can just do a light distress if you like. So that's the fun bit. Then after that, lots of sewing. So when you distress the shirt, you get lots of, I'll call them ragged edges. Again, you'll see all this, and they do need to be sewn down, or the shirt just like flops around on your jeans. So that's the biggest step, is sewing all of that down with your machine. And then you can finish by sewing up the outside legs of your jeans, and you can make them fit, assuming you did buy them bigger to start with. Or you can do what I did, which is an awful lot of hand stitching. An awful lot of hand stitching, but you really don't need to do that. So there you go. Those are the 9 steps. I guess that's my introduction. I really hope you enjoy making the jeans, and please show me on YouTube or on my Facebook or Insta page if you do. Thanks, bye. So the shirt and the jeans have now been bleached. They're a little patchy, but it doesn't matter because the shirt will be cut up and put on top of them. I'm going to be using some quick grip, which I get from Bunnings, a hardware store in Australia. It costs about $15, and I will use this whole can today. And I will be, after I've cut the shirt up, I will be spraying the jeans and placing the shirt pieces down. After that, I will then Dremel and sew, and I might do some additional bleaching. We'll see how we go. I'm going to be removing these pockets. Normally I just cut them out and leave whatever colour is underneath, but because I'm going to be basically patching over the top, I just don't want to have to sew through this. So I'm going to have to use my unpicker. I will then cut open the jeans, and that's so that it's going to make it easier for me to add the flannelette shirt. And in this case, I'm going to be cutting about 1 centimetre to 2 centimetres behind the side seam, avoiding this here, and if there's any like studs, avoiding them. So I will cut all the way down both sides. And then at the end, I'm going to sew these back together. So you're going to end up taking out some of the jeans. So I've started with a size 34, and I'm normally about a 30 in a pair of jeans. We are going to cut the jeans now on the outside leg, and I'm cutting towards the back, and I'll cut about 1 centimetre. So when I sew these back up, I will sew it so that the seam is on the outside and it will fray, and I will easily take 1 inch off these jeans, maybe 2 inches, which is why I'm using a size 34. So they're 2 sizes too big for me. I'm usually a size 30 or sometimes a bit less. So let's just cut. So I'm just cutting through just with a pair of scissors which probably need to be a bit sharper. The reason I'm cutting behind is to avoid cutting into this pocket, because I want to keep the pocket as it is. She says it's always a bit hard to start. Oh, I need a pair of sharp scissors. So there we go, just cutting. Every now and then I just check that I'm nowhere near the pocket, and there we go, we'll just keep going. I've removed the pocket from the flannelette shirt, just unpicked it. For the cuffs and the collar, I'm just going to cut them off, and that's because it doesn't matter if they fray, so I'll just cut them just under the seam line there, and then cut them again there, and I'll probably able to open them up and use some of that fabric as well. Collar's been removed, and this is the upper yoke, and there's 2 layers. I'm just going to cut that yoke off and just remove all of the heavy stitching. In relation to the plackets, they're not too thick. It's just 1 layer folded over, so we're going to leave those for now. This is the cuff that I've just chopped off the ends because they're thick. I don't want all that thickness when I'm sewing it on my jeans, and therefore I'm going to cut this edge off. There's quite a bit of thickness there as well, and I'll probably cut it along here as well. So we're just cutting the cuffs off, and I'm cutting on the shirt side, so under the stitching, and we'll do this for all of them. And then you'll find like the cuff is not so bleached, so I can undo this and then maybe bleach that a bit, or just leave it as it is, depending on, you know, ultimately what I like on the jeans. So these are all the shirt pieces, and to put them on the jeans, I'm going to square some of them off just to make it, don't mind the dogs, I'm going to square some of them off, so, you know, like that hem, for example. And I'm going to start from the bottom up. The hardest part is sort of around the bum, around the front, and we'll just see how I go. I'm going to end up, I know, up the top with like patching pieces together. I'm not fussed about patching on patches. If I find something's too thick, like the placket, I'll just take it off. So these have now been opened up. Right, there's the back, and there's the front. Right, and there's the front. These were way too long for me, and so I'm just going to chop. I'm going to start off with maybe chop 1 inch off the bottom. It will fray, that's fine. I don't know ultimately how I'm going to do the hem, but let's just chop some off. This is the sleeve. There's the round top. I'm going to square that off now and use... So when I say square off, I'm just cutting out the top. The piece itself isn't, you know, square. So I'm also going to have to cut some of it off to fit across the rest of the leg. Now this has got checks on it. I'm also not going to be worried about lining checks up. I'll even be quite happy to have diagonals, and so all I'm doing here is I'm going to glue that across the top, so I can see that I need to cut it sort of about here. So that's what I'll do now. So let's just shaky, 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 shaky. I'm going to spray. Oh, look, it's going to be different on the sides. I forgot about that. So that means I can use either side. Well, I'll start with this one because I can always... Oh, does that actually work? Alright. I know this stuff gets tacky, so if you're doing this at home, put something down to cover your bench. Don't do what I'm doing. So it gets tacky quite quickly. It's already tacky. So we'll just put it along the edge. I haven't gone quite all the way to the bottom. And so it needs to be not as straightforward as what you would hope. So get it a bit closer to the edge. So I want to start at one side, and you can see not perfect, but I don't want sort of creases in it. This glue won't be enough to hold it through washing. I've used it before, and when you wash, the glue breaks down, which is fine because I will be sewing on this as well. So just squaring this piece off, and you can see it's the leg. I'm just going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to glue as I go. So I will now spray this and put it on. I will avoid, if I can, having something right at the edge. It's going to say if I can, because I'll be sewing there. So I just, if I can, not add any additional thickness. So this is the sleeve, and because it goes out at the top, and that's sort of the way the jean legs go, slimmer at the bottom, out at the top, I'm going to place that on next. So I've got sort of that bit. I'm not worried about this here. I probably will slow that down, but I like the texture. I don't mind if it's open a little bit. That all adds to it. And this time you can see quite clearly that this is on a bit of an angle. Again, I'm not worried. Bit of overlap, just will probably pull it up a bit. So spray that bit and on it goes. I'm just putting it on, and I wanted a little bit of overlap down the bottom. So that's what I've got, and we will just stretch it out a bit before it gets too sticky. There we go. Next piece is on. This is one of the sides, and that's front side, front of the bodice, and that's the armhole where I've cut the sleeve out. And I'm going to place that around the crotch, so I'm going to use the curvy bit here around there, and I will obviously going to have to cut it, but my aim first is just to get something around the curve that's already a curve, and look at where I will cut. I'm going to cut this off here. I can see where that goes. I'll just cut that there, and I'll probably, I might just cut it all the way down across, and then I might just cut it here as well, which is the edge, and then we'll see how that goes as well. This is the yoke, and it sort of fits nicely across the back, so I'm going to put that on, and I might not square that off because we've got all sort of this bum area here which is going to get patched anyway, So that's what I'm going to do next. Looking at the front pocket here, you can see, that's the pocket bag, and it's sewn along here. I can move it out of the way a little bit, but no, I can't move it all the way out of the way. If you don't care about this, using this pocket, you could put this up higher, but I'm being mindful of the bag, and so I'm just going to bring this piece around, and then for the areas around the zip, I'll patch up because I can sew up higher. What I will make sure that I do is not have a straight, I don't want a straight line. I will, maybe go up a bit higher because I can, it's closer to there. And then for this section, I'll probably just do something like that. This is the back of the jeans coming up to the front. So it's that long crotch seam. And I'm going to do this middle bit here using part of the yoke. I'm going to use that sort of round seam there. And I'm also going to cover up the seam because I want to go over this side. So on the other side, I just went up to the seam, and I think it will look a bit less pleasant having this blue seam sticking out. So I am going to cover it up using this piece here. We'll use the same process. I'm going to glue the back of this and then put it on. Just putting this piece on right close to the zip, and I can put it as far up as when that pocket starts, and I can put it all the way over there on the zip because I can sew. It's going to be thick. I'll be using a denim needle, but I can actually sew all the way over, and then I've just tapered it off to sort of come around the bottom of the fly there. Looking at the fly and the zip itself on this side, I can sew, she says, I can sew like along that side and along that side. But when I sew, I need to be super careful about the zip. So I'm still going to stick this on. I'll give it a go with the machine. Worst case scenario is I just hand stitch that piece on, so not a problem. I'm going to take this label off. I'll just unpick it, and I've got like a straight line across the back, which I think is not very pleasing. So I will add some extra pieces, and I think I won't have them in a straight line. I could take these bar tabs off if you want to do this properly and then put them back on. Yeah, too much effort. So I'm just going to add some extra patches of this shirt. And it looks like I'm just using one shirt. I think this was like an extra large shirt for these jeans. If you've got any bigger than a 34-inch, you're going to need more than one extra large shirt. So here is the back, and here's how I've managed the band. Sort of looks a bit ugly at this stage. And you'll find when you do this that they feel quite thick at this stage and maybe a bit stiff. Once they're washed, that stiffness will dissipate, and that's just because of the glue. But also they're going to be super warm because you've got flannel on top of your denim. So here is the front of the jeans with the flannel on, and like there's lots of patches. Again, not worried about that. But what I will need to do before I use the Dremel, because the Dremel will rip some of the fabric up, is I'm going to go around the edges of these. I'll probably use a gold or rose gold thread, and so the big ones, again, I'm just going to go around. Maybe down here I might also just do a couple of stitches across. We'll see. So I'll show you the back. Let's have a look at the front. All those pieces have been sewn down now, and I've also run the odd stitch up the front. If I thought a piece was too big, then I've run a stitch. This one needs a stitch as well, so what's that, sort of 8 inches it needs just a stitch, because when you start the dremeling it can lift up quite a bit. Just a quick comment about this area here, which is really quite thick. I have managed to sew it. I've made the stitch 2.6 instead of 2.4, and I've had to use the hand crank to help it a little bit. I mean, the worst case scenario is you break a needle, so you just put another one in and go a lot slower, or use a walking foot. Back, everything is just sewn down, and here's an example where I've run the stitch all the way down just to help keep everything in place. This is what I've done so far, and I'm doing this outside. Hope you can see you get fluff absolutely everywhere, so you need to get rid of that. It's ideal if you're wearing a face mask as well. Now this is a Dremel. It's a rotary tool, and it has a spinning top, and that's a piece of sandpaper that comes with the kit. And this doesn't take very long to do, like it's seconds to get these sorts of holes. And what I've done in some places is I've gone harder and I have distressed the denim into little holes as well. I use it on high. My low is just really not strong enough. And that's what it's looking like so far. So you can make these, you know, areas of distress as big or as small as what you want. And you can see that sometimes it lifts up bits of the flannelette shirt. Sort of there, you can see bits lifted up. That's how I'm doing it. Fluff. So I'm going to sew the edges down. I'll probably cut some bits off that are sort of sitting up like that. So I've cut all the sort of excess bits of fluff off. Here's the front, and I'll just roll them over. They're not sewn back together yet. And in doing the dremeling, I did a lot more distressing on the denim than I normally would, so I've put quite a lot of holes in it. And if I've put holes where I don't want them, that's no problem. I'll just patch the inside, but I'm sort of going to wait until all this is finished, until I decide. And then I could also make some of those holes even bigger and then like have a patch showing through, which I quite like the idea of, or even adding patches over the top. So we'll see. So I'm ready to do some hand stitching, and I've decided to make my life a bit easier. I'm using my broken template and some water-soluble markers on water-soluble stabilizer, which is what this is. So my plan is to mark out a section and then cut this out, pin it to my jeans, and those will be my sewing guidelines. And then I will rinse this off, and this will dissolve, and I'll just be left with the stitches underneath. And the reason I'm doing that is because the jeans have got a lot of texture with the flannel on them, and I've tried to use just the stencil and a marking pen, and I'm just not being able to mark the flannel. It's okay just on the denim, but not with the flannel, so we'll see how this goes. I have actually gone over the water-soluble pen with a worksite marker because it was too pale, so now that it's quite strong. So that's going to take a little bit of time, and now I'm ready to start stitching. I've pinned it on, I'll stitch it, and then I'll wash this off and we'll see how that works. So I'm just using some wash away Violin here to transfer the marks from the stencil onto the Violin, just using an ordinary pen, and then these will go onto the jeans. This is a much better solution than marking with a texter. because I've tried it already and the pen does not come off onto the thread that I'm using. So I would recommend this over something like Solvay. Thanks. I have done some hand stitching, and I was using this thread, which is about a 2-ply equivalent. It's an Olympus brand sashiko thread, but you can't really notice it against the background. So now I've using a polyester, which is a 4-ply equivalent, and it's something that's just been picked up, a crochet and knitting yarn from an op shop. So what I'm doing just fits through my needle, the eye of the needle. I am using the original stitching as a guide, so you can just see the background, and then there's the white that I'm doing, and like from a distance you won't really notice it. Oh. Otherwise I had to pull it all out, and I am not doing that.